His mother looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We thought you weren't coming back." I was standing in my own compound, the compound I paid for, suitcases at my feet. And my husband? He was 10 feet away, holding another woman's hand. She was wearing a wedding dress, 3 months pregnant, and the food those guests were eating? I paid for that too. I just didn't know it yet. My name is Grace. I'm going to tell you a story that, honestly, even now, even after everything, I still have trouble believing it actually happened to me. 3 years ago, I made a decision. I left Atlanta, flew 8,000 miles to Nigeria, and married a man named David. We had one of those relationships people call meant to be. Met at a wedding in Lagos back in 2015. I was visiting family, he was a groomsman, and by the end of that weekend, I knew. I just knew. We did long distance for 2 years, video calls every single night. He would send me voice notes while driving to work, just rambling about nothing. Traffic, breakfast, how much he missed me. And I lived for those voice notes. I really did. We got married in 2018, small ceremony, nothing fancy, his family compound in Lagos. The house needed work, but it had potential. We talked about fixing it up, starting a business together, having kids, building something real. But then money got tight, work dried up, and one night, David sat me down and said, "Grace, I think you should go back to the States, just for a little while. Work, send money home, and we'll use it to build our future. 2 years, maybe 3. Then we'll be set." I didn't want to go. I need you to hear that. I did not want to leave my husband. But I loved him, and I trusted him. So I went. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And if you are new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. I moved back to Atlanta, stayed with my cousin Ruth until I could afford my own place, got a job at a rehabilitation center. 5 a.m. shifts, 6 days a week. I would come home smelling like disinfectant and sweat, microwave whatever Ruth had cooked, call David, fall asleep mid-sentence sometimes. Those calls were everything, the only thing that made the loneliness bearable. Every month I sent money home. First transfer was for the house, new tiles, fresh paint, that broken gate I had been complaining about since I moved in. Second transfer was for a car. David said he needed it for business meetings, would help him look professional. Third transfer was for the logistics company, our company, the one we had planned together the night before I left, sitting on the edge of our bed, his hand on my knee, both of us dreaming out loud about a future that felt so close I could almost touch it. Now here's the thing. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't some naive woman who couldn't see warning signs. I believed in us. I believed the distance was temporary. I believed the sacrifice meant something. 3 years of 5 a.m. alarms, 3 years of instant noodles at midnight because I was too tired to cook anything real. 3 years of video calls where the connection would freeze and I would sit there staring at his pixelated face, waiting for it to come back. 3 years of being faithful to a man on a screen. About 14 months before I came home, I was sitting on my kitchen floor, had just finished a double shift, 12 hours. My feet hurt so bad I couldn't make it to the couch, so I just sat there, eating crackers, scrolling through my phone, and I saw a message in a group chat I had almost muted. Someone posted a screenshot. No caption, no tags. just a screenshot. A Facebook post from some woman in Lagos I didn't know. She was congratulating David on his upcoming introduction ceremony. Introduction ceremony. That's the first step toward marriage in Nigerian culture. My husband's name in that post. I read it 3 times, put my phone face down on the floor, sat there for, I don't know, felt like hours. Part of me wanted to call him right then, scream, demand answers. But I had learned something about myself during those years in Atlanta. When I feel threatened, my first instinct is noise, yelling, confrontation. And noise, I had realized, is almost always the wrong move. So instead, I called Esther. Esther was a lawyer I had met at church, Nigerian like me, sharp, practical, the kind of woman who always has a plan B and a plan C. I told her what I saw. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Grace, before you do anything, I need you to listen to me very carefully." What she told me over the next hour changed everything. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. If you saw that screenshot, what would you have done? Would you have called him immediately, confronted him, or would you have done what I did next? Esther explained something I didn't know. In Nigeria, a statutory marriage, one conducted in a court registry, cannot be dissolved just because someone decides it's over. It requires a court, legal process, both parties formally notified. Any wedding conducted while a statutory marriage is still active is not valid under Nigerian law. Null and void. Then, she said something I wrote down on a napkin because I didn't have paper nearby. The money you've been sending? That's not just love. Under property law, that's contribution. Document everything, every transfer, every receipt, every conversation, because if this goes where I think it's going, the paper trail is your power. So I did. I started documenting everything, every bank transfer, the date, the amount, what it was for, every WhatsApp message where David asked me for money, and he always asked in writing. Always. "Grace, the contractor needs payment this week. Baby, the car deal is closing. I need the balance by Friday. The business registration is ready. Send the remaining amount." I never deleted a single message. Maybe some part of me always knew that trust alone wasn't enough. Maybe I was just raised by a mother who kept receipts for everything and taught me that paper is the only thing that doesn't change its story. I organized everything into a folder. Bank statements, screenshots, transfer confirmations, the marriage certificate, and I waited. I didn't confront David, didn't tell anyone what I knew, kept sending money, kept calling every night, kept pretending everything was fine, because I needed time, and I needed to be ready. 14 months later, I boarded a flight to Lagos. Didn't tell anyone, not my mother, not my sister, not even Ruth. I wanted it to be a surprise. Wanted to walk into my compound, wrap my arms around David, and finally be home. The flight was 14 hours of bad movies and recycled air and that bone-deep exhaustion you get when you've been awake too long. But I didn't care. All I could think about was seeing his face. The taxi from the airport took forever. Lagos traffic, you know how it is. But as we got closer to my neighborhood, I heard music. High life. Talking drums. The kind of sound that announces something big is happening. I thought maybe a neighbor was throwing a party. Then I saw the canopies, white and gold, stretched across my compound, spilling into the street. Caterers in matching uniforms, guests everywhere, hundreds of them, all wearing coordinated fabric, aso ebi, the kind you only wear for weddings. My heart started doing something strange. Not quite racing, more like stopping and starting. Stopping and starting. I told the driver to pull over, paid him, got out, stood at the gate I paid to fix, and I watched my husband marry another woman. She was beautiful. I'm not going to lie about that. White beaded gown, perfect makeup, that glow brides have. David was next to her, white Ugbata, holding her hand, smiling bigger than I had ever seen him smile, and I just stood there, suitcases at my feet, watching. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't fall to my knees like they do in movies. I just stood completely still while everything inside me went quiet. That's the thing nobody tells you about certain kinds of pain. They don't arrive loud. They arrive silent, like a power cut. 1 second there's light, then there's nothing. Someone noticed me. A woman near the entrance. Her eyes swept past me, then snapped back. I watched her whisper to the person beside her. Then that person turned, and the whisper started spreading, person to person, until someone said, loud enough for me to hear, "Is that not his wife? The one from America?" The music didn't stop, but something shifted. Heads turned toward me, eyes found me standing at the gate with my luggage, and then David turned. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was seeing something he couldn't quite process, something that had arrived without permission. Then something crossed his face, and I studied it carefully. 3 years of video calls had taught me how to read his expressions. It wasn't guilt, it wasn't shock, it was irritation. That's when his mother walked through the crowd. Slow, deliberate, deep burgundy lace, coral beads at her throat. The beads she only wore when she wanted everyone to remember who she was. She stopped a few feet from me, looked at my suitcases, my wrinkled travel clothes, my face, and she said it. No apology, no shame, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "We thought you weren't coming back." I didn't say anything. What could I say? I just stood there, in the compound I had paid for, while the music slowly, awkwardly, found its way back to life. If you're still watching, drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done in that moment. Because I'll be honest, I don't know if I did the right thing. I just know what I did. I picked up my suitcases, walked into the house, went upstairs. The bedroom David and I had shared. The curtains I had shipped from Atlanta were still there, but my clothes were gone. My side of the wardrobe completely empty. In their place, another woman's things. Blouses, wrappers, shoes. On the nightstand, a framed photograph. David and the new bride. Smiling. In my bedroom. I locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub, and cried. Quietly. Not for an audience, just letting my body release something it had been holding for too long. I gave myself 20 minutes, then I washed my face, looked in the mirror, and walked out, because I had not come back to Lagos to fall apart. The next day, I found the divorce papers in the drawer of my writing desk, the desk I had bought myself. My name was on them, his name was on them, the date was 8 months ago, signature line at the bottom, blank. I had never seen these papers, never been served, never signed anything. He hadn't divorced me. He had just decided I was gone and moved on like I never existed. And here's the part nobody in that compound had considered. The new bride, Monica, was 3 months pregnant, and she had no idea that her wedding wasn't legal. That evening, there was a knock on my door. Monica was standing there, still in her going-away outfit from the wedding, eyes red, hands folded in front of her. "Please," she said, "can I talk to you?" I looked at her for a moment, this woman who had been placed in the middle of something she didn't understand. I opened the door wider, let her in. She sat down and told me everything. David had told her we were divorced, showed her documents, said the marriage was legally over. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? She had left her job in Port Harcourt, given up her apartment, moved to Lagos because he promised her a home, a future, a husband. She was 26 years old, and she was terrified. Then she looked at me and said something I wasn't expecting. "I think we've both been lied to." I sat with that for a long time after she left, because she was right. We weren't enemies, weren't rivals. We were two women who had trusted the same man, believed different versions of the same lie, and ended up here. 3 days later, David's family called a meeting. In Nigerian culture, disputes get settled by elders. They gather in a circle, talk it through, settle the matter. That was the phrase. Settle the matter. Like 3 years of my life could be folded into a Saturday morning conversation. The meeting was at his uncle's house. 14 people. His uncles, aunties, his mother, some pastor I didn't recognize. On my side, my sister Ruth and my lawyer, Mrs. Adeyemi. David's uncle opened with prayer, then gave a speech. Marriage is sacred. Disagreements are natural. The family was asking me to forgive and rebuild. He called David a good man who made mistakes under difficult circumstances, said my absence had created a vacuum, never mentioned the money I sent, never mentioned Monica, never mentioned the unsigned divorce papers. When he finished, he looked at me like he expected tears, an apology, gratitude for his wisdom. I opened my folder. I didn't raise my voice, didn't perform, just started handing out documents, bank transfers, 3 years of them, WhatsApp screenshots, David's own words asking for money, the marriage certificate, valid, legal, binding, business registration documents, both our names, joint directors, the unsigned divorce papers, and finally, a letter from Mrs. Adeyemi's office outlining my legal position. Wife, co-owner of the marital home, named partner in the business. The room went silent. David's uncle looked at him. David looked at the floor. The pastor cleared his throat and said, very quietly, that the wedding ceremony couldn't be recognized if the first marriage was still legally standing. One of the aunties made a sound, not a word, just a sound. That sound Nigerian women make when they realize they've been played. And David's mother? She didn't say anything, but I watched something shift in her eyes. She had known, or suspected, and chosen not to ask. In the weeks after, David came to me multiple times, apologized, begged, said he had been lonely, that the distance broke something in him, asked me to forgive him, start over, try again. And I thought about it. I did. Thought about the man I married, the voice notes, the promises. But here's what I realized. That man didn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. And I could forgive David. I could understand how loneliness led him here, could hold space for his weakness, his failure. But forgiveness is not the same as return. I could forgive him and still choose not to go back. Not because I hated him, not because I wanted revenge, but because I had spent 3 years building a life around a version of him that wasn't real. And I was not willing to spend the next 30 years doing the same. Some things, once broken a certain way, don't go back to their original shape. That's not bitterness. That's just the truth about certain kinds of damage. Mrs. Adeyemi filed the divorce papers the following week. I claimed my share of the house, withdrew from the business on my terms, got a settlement that reflected what I had actually contributed, and when it was done, I sat in her office and felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Light. Like I had finally put down something I had been carrying for way too long. I left Lagos 6 weeks later. Didn't go back to Atlanta. That chapter was done. Moved to a new city, new apartment, new job, new life. A place where nobody knew my story, where I was just Grace, 32 years old, careful about documentation, and free. I think about Monica sometimes. Last I heard, she went back to Port Harcourt, staying with her mother. David was paying child support, handling things, quietly, the way these situations always get handled. I hope she's okay. She was 26 and lied to by a man she trusted. She didn't have a lawyer friend, didn't have documentation, just had what she was told, and a baby on the way. I hope someone is looking out for her. People ask if I regret going abroad, if I wished I had stayed, if the sacrifice was worth it. And my answer is always the same. I don't regret the sacrifice. I regret that it was spent on someone who didn't deserve it. But the discipline I learned, the money I saved, the documentation I kept, those things made me the woman who walked into that family meeting and put the truth on the table. Made me the woman who didn't break, who didn't beg, who didn't fall apart when everyone expected her to. Here's what I know now, and I need you to hear this. Documentation is not distrust. It's protection. It's dignity. It's the difference between proving what you gave and being erased like you gave nothing. Paper doesn't lie. Paper doesn't change its story when a room fills up with people who want you to be quiet. If you're watching this and you're someone who sends money home, makes sacrifices for someone else, trusts that everything will work out, please keep records, save receipts, document everything. Not because you expect things to go wrong, but because you deserve proof that you were there, that you worked, that you gave, that you built something. One more thing. Dignity cannot be taken from you. It can only be surrendered. I didn't surrender mine. Not when I stood at that gate. Not when his mother said they thought I wasn't coming back. Not when I found another woman's clothes in my wardrobe. Not when I cried alone in that bathroom. Not when I had to explain to a room full of strangers what my husband did. I kept my dignity. And you can keep yours too. If you're in a situation right now where someone is writing your story for you, where you're staying silent because speaking up feels too hard, where you already know the truth but you're waiting for permission to act on it, what are you waiting for? Who gave them the right to tell your story? Comment below. Tell me what you would have done. Tell me if you've ever been somewhere similar. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, Share this video with them. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting alone, wondering if they're overreacting. They're not. And they need to know it's possible to walk through something like this and come out the other side whole. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.